So this is a basic scenario that just allows us to get the student acclimated into the simulation. I'm sure you've heard all the horror stories about simulation and people's discomfort and things like that. So what we, our philosophy really is in Profess is to get the student acclimated, take them through some basic scenarios that just get them the feel of the vehicle and acclimated to the environment here. As you can see, I'm sitting in a two-seat, this is our two-seater cab. This is all sort of custom work. Our standard has a more simplified dash. The middle of the dash could be an LCD panel where the instrument changes depending on the vehicle. And then we typically over here on the right-hand side have our radio and emergency equipment and a PTO. This is our MDT, light box, siren, MDT. So those can be stacked here and part of the simulation. All right. So the idea here is just to follow this vehicle down the road. I'm going to get Jeremy to put it in daylight there so you can see what's going on. The reason we have it dark initially is just to stop a lot of this interference with the student. I don't know if you know that the peripheral vision is very sensitive to motion, and so you see a lot of motion going on in the scene, and it can be discomforting for the student. So what we do is we just lower the visibility by bringing it into night, and that allows us to reduce the amount of motion that's going on in the scene for the student. So the idea here is just to get used to the steering, using your turn signals, looking in your mirrors, and braking. The other thing is here we can do is we have the ability to, if I can remember where my overhead switch is, overhead. We can allow the student to have a look and see how far they are away from an object. So it looks, from here it looks like I'm quite close to this vehicle, but when you see in an overhead, I'm quite far out. So the idea here is just to allow the student to come into forward, maybe within a couple of vehicle length, vehicle and a half, and then get the idea, the perspective of how close they are to the vehicle in front of them. And you can see that I've got a little bit of room there to come up and get into the vehicle, and I've still got some room there. So the idea here is just to allow the student to get some perspective of the visual system and how it works. Mirrors, the mirrors up here and the mirrors over there, these are dependent on the vehicle type. So if it's more of a chief's vehicle or if it's a car, you'll see the mirrors obviously down here on the A-pillars of the vehicle. So I'm going to load up another scenario and just give you more feel for what goes on. Fire, emergency response, there we go, select script, load it up. When building a scenario, you can build a scenario with a lot of preset conditions in it. So you can define which vehicle you want to be driving, the times of day, the weather effects. All those can be built into the scenario. But you have the ability also to change those. The instructor has the ability to change those on the fly. So say I load up a scenario, but I want a different vehicle. I can then go to the iOS and I can select another vehicle from the library. As the student is driving through the scenario, if they have, if you think they may be driving a little too fast, you can maybe introduce some rain and see if they react to that. So you as an instructor, you can change the environment, or you can change the effects on the simulation as the student's driving through the simulator. So you have some control over the simulation as well, just beyond the scenario that you have loaded in. So this is basically a scenario where we're responding to a house fire. So we can, so I'm now using this device to control the simulation, and it's just my phone, but this could be any device. It could be an iPad or any iOS or any type of phone. It's not restricted to Apple. What's the other one, Jeremy? Android? So I'm going to move forward. We have the ability, and you can probably see this sign here. So we have the ability to put audio messages into the simulation to give the student instructions. We also can give the student instructions through the MDT, so they get an indication of what kind of call they're going on. So we have the ability to go lights and sirens if we want to. Oh, that's not what I want. So, where are all my lights? So I don't know if you can see the effects of the lights in the visual scene.
We can, yes.
If I can get some control. Yeah, a little better. So I'm responding to this call. We have the ability to put signs in there and follow the arrows, or you could give them a written description within the MDT, or you could have somebody maybe going through it with them. Maybe you've got somebody who's playing dispatch and is if I watch what's going on here, I know he's coming. So you could have somebody role-playing as dispatch and have them calling out, and then having the operator responding to dispatch. We can hook in the radio, in your headphones, and the ability to then talk to dispatch. So here I have come on scene now, and now I'm sort of going to look around. Where's my closest? Where's my best point to locate my rig? So you have the ability to do some of that as well. So you can see I should have a hydrant here somewhere. I saw one in my mirror. So we've got the ability, so some of these objects like the hydrant and stuff like that, you could move that around and put that where you wanted. So this scene, if I get rid of this and I put it on pause, a little quieter. So you've got the ability to move these objects around and create your scenes as you want to. So you could have the same location, but you could have a different setup for this location. So through the scenario toolbox, you have the ability to change these things. So you can see my reversing wasn't, my backing up wasn't that great, but you can get an idea of the scene and the type of vehicle that I'm driving. So I can, in here, I can change the time of day. I could, I hopefully can bring some fog in. And again, these can be controlled by the instructor during the simulation while it's playing. I've got some rain, I can bring in rain. And when you bring in rain, you'll also decrease the coefficient of friction on the road, so the vehicle will start sliding around. We've got some snow in here. I can show some snow. I can also change the wind direction, so hopefully you can see all that. So these are all things that you can introduce as the instructor, or you can have them built into your scenario so that they automatically happen at some point or trigger point during the scenario. I also have the ability I have some malfunctions and faults that I can introduce, and I've also got the ability to put in autonomous traffic and have traffic moving around. The only problem is if you have autonomous traffic moving around, it somewhat conflicts with your scenario, your script. We also have the ability to jump back, and so I can jump the simulation back to a point. I can take it all the way back to the beginning, and then I can replay the simulation. So you can see here we're going back in through the simulation. You've got live video of the instructor, of the driver, sorry, not the instructor, of the driver. And as you go through the simulation, it will take you back through the scenario. You can change the perspective of, see if I can, as I go back through, I can change the perspective of where I want to be. I can go into almost like a third person view, and this way then I can take the student back through. They can get an idea of what they would be driving through in the situations that they were coming up against. I think it just gives them a bit of perspective on this, basically the environment they're driving through and the conditions and the situation that they're driving through. So, and I can get back to the first person. So I'm not driving. The simulation is basically playing back through the scenario as was driven by the student, and you can see the actions of the student. You know, were they looking, unlike me, were they looking down the road? Did they clear themselves through the intersection? And then did they, you know, understand the directions? Were they following the directions to come in, take the street down? They obviously could see the fire, so it's a little easier in this situation. But again, coming up to an intersection, are they observing what's going on around about them? They've got a car here that's very distracting them, but this basketball has rolled out in front of them. Are they clued into what happens usually when a basketball or some kind of toy or something comes out from a parked car? What's going to happen? So, are they observing what's going on as they're driving through the scenario? You could be introducing radio traffic. You could have this, your role player and your dispatch, you know, harping at them, wondering where they are, what they're doing, how they're getting on. So you can be adding in confusion into the situation, into the scenario. It gives you an idea of how you can basically then coach the student once they've gone through the scenario and they're now playing, you're playing it back, you're coaching them through it. You can ask them basically what they're thinking as they're going through the scenario and the decisions that they've been making. We have what we call our 4 levels of collision. So we have the ability to just tap a vehicle, and I can, if you give me just a sec, I'll load up the scenario and I'll show you. Close it down. Basketball. Going to do here. Load. I don't know if you can see that on this MDT. These are the student directions. So those are the basically you can give the student directions. If in this case where you've got 2, you can basically let them know what the scenario is all about, so they've got some idea. Or you can have them go blind into it, and then just have somebody have some either radio communications either directly through the headsets from the instructor or somebody role playing, or you could have those pre-programmed into the scenario.
Okay.
So let me go ahead and drive through this. Oh, you see my, the windshield wipers do work when it's dry.
There you go. Yeah.
I've been fooled there. All right, so here I am. I'm going to go on this call. So this vehicle comes out in front of me. I can, if I want to, I can come up and make sure I see if I can tap this vehicle. So I can tap the vehicle just like I was, say, in a police car doing a type pit maneuver. If I wanted to, so you can see what's happened here is I've had a collision with this vehicle. I've got this crack in my windshield, but what that indicates is that my vehicle is still operational. So basically, I've had an accident, but I haven't. My vehicle is still operational, so I can still drive it. So if I've tapped somebody or hit somebody, do I, you know, what is the process? Should I stop and wait? Everybody looks fine. I'm going to go carry on. They can deal with it themselves. Is that, you know? So I can come up here and I can, you know, get into. So you can, excellent. So you can see what's happened now. I've got this more shattered windshield, and essentially what that is I have now rendered my vehicle useless. So that's the third level of collision. The fourth level of collision is basically a rollover. So, and then I'm terminal, essentially. So that gives you the idea of the different levels of collisions that you can have. So that gives you an idea of the ability for you to, and you can, you know, obviously if they're going through an intersection, they strike a vehicle, what's the policy, what's the procedure? Should they stay and stop and basically get on the radio and say, hey, I've had an accident here, what's the protocol? If they feel that they haven't left too much damage, they can carry on. So essentially you can assess the student for how much they know about your policy or your SOPs or the requirements. What I'll do now is I'll move over to the Instructor Station and just talk you through some of the pages and just show you how the Instructor Station operates. Are we showing it? Okay. I'm going to come back out of the actual Instructor Station here. I'll come back to this level. So you can see here that I have my library of scenarios in this list here on the left. So I've got obviously because this is our demo unit, we have these set up for shows, and we have different scripts that we have set up for our shows here. But I also have my EMS library, and essentially a lot of these initial scenarios, the acclimation scenarios, the skill builder scenarios, general driving, they're all the same for whichever discipline. Typically what just changes is the vehicle type that you're driving. So here in the EMS ones, we would load these up with an ambulance, one of the different types of ambulances that we have, type 1, type 2, type 3 ambulances. Fire, then again, we've got these same scenarios, but we can then have a different vehicle loaded up here. And if I had the police scripts on here, there would be another level there that would say police. So if you were wanting both all three, EMS, fire, and police, then when you open this up, you would see the three categories under this menu. I have the ability to load lesson plans. There's no lesson plans in here, but this is where I would take the different scenarios that I want to have in my training program and put them into a list here, pre-selected list, and then all the instructor has to do is basically select the first one, and then as each scenario is finished, it would roll into the next scenario. You can do free drive. We're not a big proponent on free drive. We really like to keep it to scripts. So you're obviously doing specific training objectives. This is our map. This is our world. The scenario will start somewhere in the world, and there'll be basically a route and then an endpoint there. The overview of the scenario, instructor's notes. So these instructor's notes, basically we give you a catalog, a scenario catalog, and these notes are in the catalog. So you as instructor, you can go through the catalog and decide which scripts you want to run in your program. Students' notes, these are the notes that you would see on the MDT. And then this just talks about basically locations that where the scenario is basically locations in the map where the scenario is being performed. So I can come along and I can then load up my scenario. You can see under here I've got the ability to load different vehicles. So if I wanted to, I could load a Type 1 ambulance here and then go ahead and load the scenario. I could also, I've got the ability to if you want to assign a student to this. So you could keep records if you want to. You don't have to, but you could put in the student's information here, and then that information can be retained at the end. It's saved, and then you can take it offline if you want to. So you can do different things with that information. But again, that's something if you want to do it or not. I have the ability to do my environments here. I can change the environments on the fly if I want to. I've got different controls here on the simulation. I've got the ability to, if I can get back out of there, playback, MDC. I can send a message over to the MDT as a distraction, so I could just maybe send some quick notes over as dispatch, or as a way of trying to distract the student driver. So you have basically some ways of interfering with them. There's notes on the scenario again. Basically, PTT is push to talk, so you can talk to them on the radio. These again are just settings that you can use. Training and system control. We don't get much into that. I'm just trying to see if I can, environments, where are my faults? Traffic. I need to load the scenario up, sorry. I'll go ahead and load it up. So basically when you're ready, you can load up the scenario. Just takes a little minute for this to happen. And hopefully, when it loads up, you'll see that I have an ambulance in place when it comes up. Just quickly, you can see my vehicle now that I've loaded up. This time I loaded up this ambulance, Type 1 ambulance. The default was the ladder truck, and I've just changed it to this ambulance. So you can see how easily the instructor can just change it from one vehicle type to another. So are they looking at the page? Or are they? Yep. You can see here I've got the ability to introduce some failures, tire blowout, brake failure, oil pressure, low oil pressure, temperature failure, engine failure. And I can introduce those at any time I want to during the simulation. I've got ABS. I can turn the ABS function on and off. I can turn that PIT function on and off. So you've got, as an instructor, you've got some basic controls of the simulation as you're going through it. You probably noticed when I was driving, I was moving around. This unit has a motion system on it. It's basically a 3 degrees of freedom motion system. I don't know if you can see that in there. There's some little actuators in underneath here, and that's an option for you as the 3 degrees of motion platform. Basically, the lower piece is static, and then the upper piece is what moves around. But it moves, the cab moves independently of the visual system. So the visual system, the screens and everything stay static, and it's just the driving station that moves around in relationship to the vehicle movements, whether it be acceleration, braking. You saw me bouncing around off and on the sidewalks there. So I'm going to just drive this scenario quickly, and then I'm going to show you the vitals system once we go back into the replay. Help if I put my brake in the right place. Seatbelt on. into drive. And I'm going down here. I'm going to give myself some lights. I know this guy's coming at me. So am I observing, am I positioning myself correctly in the road to take care of any of these situations? And here's another situation for me. Do I go in? I see people, there's injuries in there. Do I approach and do I go all the way in to the situation, or do I hang back? So again, all the decisions that you would expect the student to be making based on the incident. So what I'm going to do is take us back to the beginning of the scenario, and this is where I hope that the right thing comes up. Nope. Oh, there it is. So on this, in the screen here is what we call our vitals. I'll just stop it. So basically this is a set of criteria that we measure the students driving against, and those criteria can be basically just, you know, the lane positioning, using the right controls, whether it's changing lanes, you know, if the lights and sirens, are they sticking to the policy, speed limit, intersection clearing, all those sorts of things. So we can measure those parameters and assess the student's performance against those certain parameters. So you can see the different things that we're scoring against here. Did they use the radio at the right time? You know, did they avoid the obstruction on the road? Were they aware there's an obstruction on the road? And so it goes through a series of assessments of the driver. This is what we call vitals. There's two forms of vitals. There's vitals light, which just does a certain number of parameters that we predetermine, or you can get into vitals fully, which basically gives you a full set of parameters. That information you can then edit. You can change the results, you can edit it. You can then take that information offline if you want to keep it for later use. But basically it's a series of green, amber, and red conditions. So green is you're well within the policy. Amber is you're maybe getting on the outer edges of policy. Red is you've basically gone outside policy, if you want to think of it that way.